Can you guess what it is yet? Well, it's curious. I don't think I've come upon one of these before, and they get pretty big, as we can see. And that one they're very much like chanterelle type thing, in that they start their like spores, gills from here. I forget the technical terminology for that. There's a special name for it. But if that was orange, then that would be a chanterelle. But you know, they could be, because they are pretty orange, aren't they? It's just that they're very brown. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take that one. By the way, Providence is fast asleep in my hoodie. He is now eating crushed walnuts and almonds, because in the write-up that I was reading, it's imperative that they have vitamin E, because apparently they can't get vitamin E from cow's milk. And so I thought, well, let's have a look then what else vitamin E comes in, because, you know, they're pointing in the direction of supplements, and supplements are like 10-15 pounds a little plastic container. And I'm like, there must be something that, you know, can slip in his milk. And so it turns out that nuts contain a lot of vitamin E, and that's exactly what squirrels want. So I've crushed up walnuts and almonds into a very fine pulp, and I mix it in with the scalded milk, which is milk brought just to the point before it boils, which apparently kills the enzymes, some protein enzymes that squirrels can't digest, and it really messes with them and it'll kill them. So that so far is what I'm feeding this little fella on. He doesn't want to eat any pear or anything like that, so he's doing well. And he seems to be thriving on it, and he's urinating and defecating like a very healthy little animal. And you know, it says that you should feed them every 5 hours, and I'm like, look, I'm going to feed an animal wherever it's hungry, and so I just present food to it every 2 hours, and it'll eat or drink some. And rather than being, you know, absolutely starving and probably overeat, they'll gorge themselves. I don't want to cause them sort of problems, and so I let him eat whenever he wants to. And I'm pretty sure that if he was with his mother, it'd be suckling at any given opportunity, you know, once an hour or more. And so, you know, what I've found again is when I look on the internet for information, it's almost impossible to find truth. And so what I've had to do, I've had to use my rational application. And the paramount thing that I have of concern is what is going to kill these young squirrels, and absolutely avoid that whatever is going to kill. And cow's milk will kill them for sure if you don't scald it, if you don't kill the enzymes in it. And so why it is that you don't boil the milk, like pasteurize it, I don't know, because you can actually feed them condensed milk, which is pasteurized milk, and then you can give them natural yogurt without boiling that. So I mean, there's so much stuff that people have tried and tested, and on the internet you'll see lots of healthy squirrels thriving on these powder formulas that you can buy from companies, but they're supposed to have egg white in them, and egg white will kill them because they can't digest those proteins. And this person that I'm taking advice from seems to know what she's speaking about. She's been doing this stuff for 25 years and reckons she's reared 2,500 baby squirrels. And so I'm thinking, well, you know, I'll go with that rather than a powdered milk company with all their lies and deceit. And in her write-up on Google, she speaks about the deceit on the court cases in relation to these powdered formulas, that they hide things within these formulas which give false readings to the amount of protein content. Can you believe the trickery and shit that goes on, people? There's certain chemicals which are poisonous to the actual animal. So they would rather kill all these animals, but they want to sell these products. And so what they do is, on the write-up, on the back, when it says the amount of protein, they lie and say it's 40%, and then there's no fibre content, when the fibre content is 17% and the protein content is only about 13 instead of 40. And what they do is, to get a false reading, they add a chemical which is very dangerous to the animals. And so, oh my God, you know, the human being, when it comes to making money, they are the devil. No consideration for life at all. And it's a very, very disappointing affair. So, like I say, he's fast asleep. Of course, like a baby, as soon as you feed it, then it just wants to curl up and, you know, have a kip for a couple of hours. So he's strong, he's lively, he spends any given amount. I took him out, I went down the shop and I walked around, and I was thinking I was going to bring him out today because he can just sleep in my hair, but I thought, well, you know, I don't want to exhaust him because you know, it's a fragile time of his life, he's growing, he needs all the rest he can get. I don't want him to, you know, to spend too much energy hanging on. So I thought, well, bang my hoodie on, and he's been asleep in that for the last hour. As soon as I put him in there, he's out like a light. And so I thought I'd come out and do some foraging. It's a beautiful day. And so I come upon these. And again, I don't know what they are. I could start speculating about lots of things, but I won't. And so I'm going to take them home. And oh, it's a shame I couldn't get. You see this one? Look at this one's different again. It's curling under, whereas the other one wasn't curling under. I mean, not many mushrooms do that. They don't curl under like that. And so when they're fully mature, they open up like this one. And so you see, look, when you come upon these mushrooms, you could think like that one is a different species to that one. You know, it's the same colour, and when we look at the gills, you know, are tending to be that variety, but this one's completely open. You can see a little bit of lip on the end there, whereas this one's much more pronounced. The thing is about mushroom foraging, if you like the details, then nature, of course, is absolutely fascinating. It will keep you guessing till the day you die. And when you think you've got one species nailed, then you'll see another one which is, you know, kind of that species, but it's just got something else, because they morph. You know, they mutate and they crossbreed, and it's absolutely fascinating what goes on. And it's stunning with the amount of variety, and so you can never nail nature down. And so I'm going to pop that one in there along with that one. There we go. I'll put the camera down a minute. Oh my God, can't get it in my bag. Right. So I'm just going to have a look at one more whilst I'm here, just to get a wheel. Yeah, that's a beautiful one. I can just pop them in my bag. And so a few days ago, I'm around here, I'm just over there, and I found a pigeon that was on the floor, and it looked young. And pigeons breed right up until, oh, here we've got probably a pavement mushroom or something of that nature. That one would be an edible if it was in decent condition, but and what's this one doing here? Dug out? What actually dug it out? Yeah, very mushroomy, and tastes like a portobello mushroom, you know. And so all of these that you find at the side of the road, in my experience, they're edible. But don't you guys go eating everything you find, because there may be an occasion when something isn't edible. But they're this variety of field mushroom, horse mushroom, pavement mushroom. They're all edible. The only one that's not edible amongst all of those is the yellow stainer, and they're not deadly poisonous. They're just going to upset your stomach, and so you don't really have anything to worry about. With the brown gilled mushrooms, it's only when you get in the white gilled mushrooms that you've got to be careful, because that's when you get like the destroying angel and the death cap, the amanitas. And so anyway, I found this pigeon, and I thought it was young, that's why it wasn't flying, because pigeons have lots of broods, right up until November, end of November maybe, you know, if the weather's mild. And so I walked after it, and I managed to pin it down, and then I noticed it had a big growth under its beak, and it was breathing like this, and so I just stroked the top of its head and calmed it down. My man taught me how to do that when I was a kid, because he said, look, if any predator's going to be eating another animal, it's going to be going for the head straight away. It's going to be, you know, crushing the head. So if you stroke it and show it that you're not interested in eating its head, then it calms down. So I thought I was calming the pigeon down, and I was making a little video of it, and then it just went limp on me like this, and so its head was just flopping around. And what actually happened was that it died in my hands. And I'm thinking, well, I mean, it appears that I contributed to its death because it probably had a heart attack. It was a weak bird, it was an ill bird, and it couldn't stand that level of stress. But there's something else that happens, what I've come to know about birds. When you find them at the side of the road, when they've had the wing broken, being clipped by a car, and their lives aren't in danger immediately, but because they'll never heal their wing, they'll never fly again, and so nature turns off the life switch within the bird. And I've had many little birds just die in my hands when they've seemed to be completely healthy, just that one wing's hanging down, so it's evidently broken. But I think nature has a turn-off switch. It knows when the bird is no longer able to survive and fend for itself, and so it's only a matter of time before it meets a horrible death. And so nature takes spirit away. It has the cut-off switch, and then the birds just die. Now, when we see lots of animals in the nature, and they have been attacked and seized by a predator. And there seems to be a great deal of passivity with the animal. They've accepted their fate. They're not squawking. You know, when you see animals being eaten by snakes, birds or reptiles or, you know, small mammals, all these sort of things, and they're eating them from the behind, and slowly the head is going further and further in the mouth, and the animal's just like, fuck, you know, can't get out of this one. And so they've stopped crying and squawking or sounding out alarms, and it seems that there's a chemical being released that's pacified their fear. And I think that's why we see lots of animals, when they are in the jaws of something, they'll just go limp. And if an animal isn't actually really compromised to the point of death, it will play dead. And chickens do this, and I used to keep chickens, and I used to grab hold of my chickens, and I used to put my hand over the head until it goes dark. And then when the chicken can't see anything, it goes into a sort of hypnotic stupor, and it just goes dead. You can roll it on its back, and you can move it around, and it'll stay like that for, you know, 20-30 seconds, and then all of a sudden, you know, it'll flap out of it. But at the point whereby it thinks that it can't escape and it's going to die, there's a chemical that gets released, and I'm sure it pacifies them and it prevents them from feeling too much pain and trauma. And so that's one of the wonderful things of nature. And at the end of the day, because nature's so incredibly brilliant, then why wouldn't it do anything like that? And when we look and we see animals doing this, well, it's a reasonable conclusion to assert, even though without measuring the chemical constituents within their brain at the time and their body, whatever the brain has produced and released into the blood flow, if you could measure those, then I would think that you wouldn't find that much cortisol. You'd find something like some sort of endorphins, which kill pain and, you know, put the mind into a state of euphoria and reduce fear. So I'm coming down here again because I want to look at these rosips. There's bushes and bushes of them, and now, that is an ink cap, and they are in actual fact edible. And I wonder where that one's come from. Someone's found that, picked it up and discarded it. But yeah, that's interesting, that is. Oh, here we go, here it was. That's it. So we can see the stalk. There's the stalk. They have this long stalk. Look at that for a stalk. And then they have these caps on top, and these, they're edible. You see, you can eat those, but when they start to go bad, look at that snail inside. Well, slug, big slug. When they start to go black like that, then that's what gives them their name of like ink caps. There's another one. Yeah. And over here I saw the stalk of two So you see how that worked? I saw something that I thought, that's a component of something that I've recognised. And it would be a bit like finding a small component of an engine of a car, and then you'd look for the rest of the engine. You know, you'd say it's a straight six 2.5 BMW you know, head, and so look, here we go. That is a perfect one. They're called shaggy ink caps, this one is, and they're very nice when you cook them in a bit of oil and butter. The only thing is, because they're very delicate, they just break up, and you can see that even when they're young, they start very quickly to decay with this inky stuff. So you have to get them very, very young. Now, I just saw that, didn't I? And I'm like, all of a sudden, something triggered in my mind. And then just a little bit of observation around, all the pieces came together. And so this is the thing, like I was listening to Richard Feynman, the renowned genius of a theoretical physicist, and he was speaking about how his mind works, and it was like that. And I'm not comparing myself to him, the renowned genius, but there didn't seem to be too much of a difference, to be fair, people. Only he was in science and I'm in philosophy and, you know, human psychology, which he didn't know anything about, because when he started to sort of enter into the realms of psychology, he made plain, which I don't know anything about, he said. And so how can you live to be 50 years old and don't know anything about your own brain? You know, in that psychological study of a way, because he's looked at the abstract for all of his life. He's never ever looked inside. He's never looked and studied the thing that's looking at the abstract. Isn't that bizarre? This man was deemed to be a genius in theoretical physics because, you know, how his mind worked, but his mind didn't seem to work any different to mine, and I don't consider that mine's, you know, too much of a genius level. You know, it seems that it is a pretty, you know, developed mind in that it's very explorative. I search and I investigate and I'm interested. I think that's mostly what it's about. It's about having an interest to do the research. And when you have an interest, then, you know, most of it just falls into some sort of logical, rational explanation. And then what you try to do is, you don't try to overcomplicate your thinking, because lots of things are much more simple. You know, we can find a very simple explanation for lots of things, but then of course, because the universe is a paradox, you're going to have a massively complex answer to whatever it is you are investigating. And so, I mean, for me, I've always been like this. I've always just been very observant and noticed differences. And I ask myself, well, why is that different to that one? What is it that gives this one life? And, you know, what is it that makes that one thrive? And what is it that makes this one subject to being preyed upon and, you know, not, you know, being too prolific and, you know, all these sort of things. And then, you know, you investigate and you study and you look and you observe, and then you start to be gifted with the answers. And I don't know as it's, you know, it's something over and above the what the vast majority of people could do. It's just that they don't have the interest. And it's like Richard Feynman. He had the interest in all abstract things, you know, with the relationship, what molecules and atoms and, you know, all these wavelengths and quarks and all this sort of stuff, and he found all that fascinating, but he never found his own mind fascinating enough to probably even read one psychology book, because he admitted that's something I don't know anything about. I'm like, wow, how can you not know anything about that which you are? You want to know everything about things out there, but nothing is out there. It's all in here. And so it's perplexing to me. It really is bizarre how we can get different levels of intellect, and yet their intellect is vastly different. And it can be really highly tuned in one arena, and then it's not tuned in to another arena at all. I mean, this is the thing about Einstein. Einstein was acutely aware of how his mind worked. And so he was like a philosopher of a sort, as well as a scientist. And that's why whenever you listen to an Einstein quote, they are profoundly philosophical and psychoanalytical. Whereas lots of people, they can't comment on that thing which perceives. So here's all these rose hips. And I think what I'm going to do, look, it's absolutely teeming with them. And they're tasty now. When you eat around the hairy seeds, but they're still rock hard, and the softer they get, the more juicy and the more tasty they get. Whereas now they've probably got about a tenth of the actual taste that they will have. So it seems that I'd be best to wait. But that's going to be my harvest, and I'm going to harvest several hundred of those. Let's say a bucketful. Very easy, I can have a bucketful. And because what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a pair of scissors, and I'm not going to pick the individual ones. I'm just going to snip off this, you see, and that way I'll get 20 berries, and then when I take them home, or probably maybe I'll just try to pull them like that. That's what I'll do. And I've wasted these now to make a point, but by the time I've done that and gathered up several hundred, then I'll have this beautiful rose sip, and I can make the syrup, but it's very, very sweet. But then you see, if you water it down, you know, say like 5 or 10 to 1 with water, then it makes a very pleasant sweet rose sippy drink, which is high in vitamin C. It's very natural. And I know squirrels eat these, because for those of you that watched my little ramble through the woods the other day, you would have seen that I found a very ripe one, and it was half eaten. And the only animal that would have done that and discarded it there would have been a squirrel. And and I was curious, because it was so ripe when I hadn't found any as ripe as that in all of my ramblings around. Because these ripen up mostly after the first couple of frosts. That's when you should pick them, ideally. So look, I'm going to put them down here, and then if somebody walks by and notices them, I wonder if then they'll look up and then they'll notice all the bushes at the side of the path, which they'd never noticed before. Because people, when they're out walking dogs, they don't notice anything. They invariably notice nothing. They're all in here. They're just walking the dog. They're just doing their duty. And they go around the same old path, but they won't notice anything. And, you know, I've never ever seen any of them looking at anything. That's why I'm quite confident about that. They never stop to pause, or you never see them looking at a leaf or a twig or, you know, a berry or anything like that. They just walk their dogs. They're just like these automatons. So Sleeping Beauty, just in case you've forgotten, is in the back there. Now you see, what would I title this video? I spoke about these mushrooms. I spoke about the inbuilt death mechanism that animals have. I've spoke about how being very, very observant, first we notice one little thing, and then, like, you know, Sherlock Holmes, we put all the pieces together. Then I've spoken about rosehip syrup and the benefits of all that. You know, this is the thing, in an Awaken Brave video, there is an enormous amount of subject matter and information. And I often wonder when I'm speaking about things, and I will say synchronicity, how many people really know what synchronicity is? And I think the vast majority of you don't really know what it is, unless you've studied Carl Jung, the founder and creator of that term. And then you've got to be pretty switched on to really grasp what it is and distinguish it from coincidence. Then I'll, you know, just mention lots of other things in passing. But every time I say something, there's such a depth to the study. And I wonder, well, does anybody know that? Does anybody know this? Does anybody know something else? And well, obviously, lots of you don't. And that's probably why I, you know, get very little interaction with my videos, because the subject matter is too deep and profound for most of you. And lots of you're limited in the amount of things you have an interest in. Whereas myself, my interest can spread over a vast, broad array of subject matter. And so then I'll just start engaging and speaking about all different stuff, well, just like I have done in this last half an hour. So what could I title it to encourage people to watch it? And then if I title it X, Y and Z, then there'd only be a small portion of that in the video, and then maybe you guys wouldn't be interested in the rest of it, you know. And I think probably, you know, that's one of the things that is a problem with my videos, because I don't stick to one subject. I'm not, you know, thorough per se about one subject in layman's terms. No, I don't speak in layman's terms. I speak from the esoteric, from the get-go. And so you have to know something about the subject matter before you're going to be even grasping remotely what I'm speaking about. And so it's like now, you know, I found this squirrel, and now I've been acquainted with that little guy. I have been forced to learn more about them. Now, before I encountered this little guy, I knew quite a lot about how they build their drays and, you know, lots of the things they eat, and how very, very clever they were, because I've watched many videos on how smart they are. You know, the same as the octopus, you know, really, really smart. And you're thinking, why does an octopus, you know, have such a profound thinking brain, which works out how to unscrew jars and, you know, lift up lids and, you know, work out more things that are intricate than that? Why would it need such a brain when it's just like lives in the ocean? You know, a little cave dwelling, what do you call them, cephalopods or something. Yeah, bizarre to find such intelligence in such a crazy, strange place. And so this is why we must never dismiss the intelligence of all things around us. You know, trees are highly intelligent. That's what I've worked out over my life. And, you know, people, they know nothing really about trees. There's so much more to learn. And there's so much more to learn about everything in this world. And so this is why I'm so dismissive of what scientists bluster on. Trust the science, trust the science. You don't know nothing. Guys, you don't know nothing. So please don't insult me. You know, that's what I say. You know, and even the things they say, oh, well, we know this and we know that. No, you don't know, actually. It's just that when you do this and you do that, then that kind of happens. But you don't know why it happens. That's vastly over and above you. And so, you know, that's why I lend myself to the supernatural, because this is a supernatural cosmos, and it's vastly more intelligent than any human being will ever get its head round. That I'm sure of, because look what's happened. Out of all these billions and billions of human beings that have come and gone so far, what do we know? We don't know what electricity is, we don't know what consciousness is, we don't know what gravity is, we don't know, you know, the vast majority about so many things. We just don't know. You know, we don't even know why some people, when they don't have brains, don't seem to have a deficit. I mentioned this to you before, you know, science documentaries that I've watched in the past, whereby people have had operations because something's gone wrong in their brain, and they've discovered that they don't actually have a brain. Or maybe there was something going wrong in the brain, and then they went for an X-ray, like a CAT scan or something like that, and it's kind of like, hang on, there's no brain in here. Oh shit! And it's just full of cerebral fluid, you know. And so you have to go figure on all these things, don't you? And so it's just another one of the universal paradoxes. It shows us something. Just when we think we're beginning to understand something, it completely flips us 180 degrees into a position whereby we have to realise that we don't know nothing. And so, anyway, I'm just rambling around today, enjoying the weather and the beautiful mild autumn, and having a bit of a forage around and seeing what's about, and coming upon things, and which then leads to videos, which then leads to imparting information. And so, you know, it's all good, isn't it, at the end of the day? Just here is the leisure centre. And yeah, alright guys, so I think I'm done for the time being. I'll catch you later.